Happy birthday, Matt.
Yay! Thank you.
How young an old boy are you?
35 today.
Ooh, man, 5 years.
Which with 3 kids, I'm basically 60, I think.
Right, it's like dog years.
And dogs, maybe 70.
Dad years, you're 104.
That's right, Dad.
Well, happy birthday, man.
Thanks, buddy.
I know the missus baked you some brownies. So, yeah, I'll get you a Core Power protein shake if you would like.
Man,
yeah, feel free to grab one out of the fridge.
But I guess it is a little early today.
It's way early for whiskey. It's, 8 a.m. here. So I mean, I guess it's not, but that's how you know you're 35, when you're like, it's too early to drink.
You can't drink all day unless you start in the morning, isn't that right?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a great point. So today's topic is exciting. We have had, we dropped the podcast a few weeks ago about what the announcement of the new smaller model, simpler, less expensive, right? And we got both still, but it created some buzz, and we've had some folks reach out about that have existing facilities that say, I want to, or basically exploring what would it look like to rebrand my current facility as an Alloy, right? Took a call from unfortunately from a guy yesterday who's in a different franchise brand who's really dropped the ball during this whole pandemic. And he's got 4 or 5 other franchisees that are in the same brand and this fitness related. And some of them are brand new, and you feel rough for them, right? And just some things are going on that don't sound great. And they're looking into, like, as a group coming and
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Converting their existing clubs to Alloys if, in fact, the franchise doesn't last. That makes sense. So, yeah, lots of interesting stuff going on. So I thought today what we could talk about is, why would you do that? Because I think a lot of people listening would think, well, why would I want to convert an existing facility into an Alloy? It doesn't make any sense. So why would you do it? And then how do you go about doing it? What's the criteria that it requires?
All right, cool.
What do you say?
Sounds good to me. So what's started off like? Why would you do it?
Well, I think first of all, it's lonely as an entrepreneur, and so I think when you're out there on your own and you run into tough times, you wished you had bandwidth or someone behind you. And that was a lot of the conversation I had with the gentleman yesterday. Was like, wow, I could go at it on my own, but why would I do that? Like, I really would love the idea of someone backing this thing or helping me, right? Because at the end of the day, we've talked about it. Franchising is essentially a partnership, right? And so it's a way for us to grow quicker without using our own capital. That's all that it is. But at the end of the day, we're in business together. That's why in our franchise structure, we came up with a percentage of revenue, right?
Yes. Very mutual.
Yeah, because as a way, as a franchise structure, because we want to make sure we're aligned with our franchisees. If they're making money, we're making money. If they're not making money, we're not making money, right? And that's a true partnership.
Versus which some do is just a flat rate?
Yeah, some do a flat fee, and that might look attractive, because I think the way that would be aligned would be to say, well, look, it's set up here. It's a flat fee, so the more money you make, we're not going to take any of that, right? And that's great, but when you run into times like now, let's say when fitness is maybe being unfairly targeted for the moment, and your revenues are way down, the master franchise is still collecting all of the fees that they were before, and they're essentially unfazed, right? In some ways. Plus, the only way for the franchise, that structure, to make more money, and believe me, they are in business as well, right? The only way for them to scale is to add more franchisees. And so you might get the impression that there's not as much going into, coaching and helping the existing franchisees as there is in acquiring new franchisees. Because once you sell someone on a 10-year franchise agreement, if you're on a flat fee, you've kind of got them unless they go out of business.
In 10 years.
Yeah, see you in 10. High five. Best of luck to you. Yeah. As opposed to like, well, we're in this together. Here's 1,000,001 resources and coaching to help you make more money. And so when you look at, again, as an example, this gentleman saying, why would I could go at it on my own, but I don't want to do that. I like the feeling and the idea of having a partner and someone powering this and someone helping me through the process. So that's one. Second is the scalability. So the other calls that we've taken recently have been from independent owners that they're sitting on maybe one brick and mortar, right? And they've been somewhat successful, but they also start looking into the future, and they're like, I would love to have 3 to 5 locations instead of just one. have a systematic, again, a system powering these things,
Yep.
so that I wouldn't have to be in the gym all day, every day, sitting in every single seat, right? And they see it as an opportunity then to scale to 3 to 5 locations because it's simple and it is scalable, and to be able to, again, build a better future. Not only would they be able to scale it because it's simpler, but at the end of the day, if they wanted to sell it, don't have to, but if you want to sell it in a franchise structure, you're going to get a much higher multiple of EBITDA than you would if you were just a one-off location. I mean, it's a tough sell to sell a mom and pop,
Right.
A mom and pop concept, because anyone buying it knows that they're basically buying a job, right? Mm-hmm. There's nothing really powering it other than the entrepreneur. And so unless they're buying into it and that person's going to stay, or there's some obscenely long earn out where the entrepreneur has to stay on for a while. Yeah, especially in the gym industry, right? This is not like you're buying a vertical, like you're in the software industry. And if we buy, if we're Salesforce and we buy Slack, right? It just kind of complements our suite of. It doesn't work like that. You're basically buying a business that's going to give you a job, and that happens every now and then. We've had it happen with an intern here. My buddy Rami sold his gym, and that made sense because the guy that bought it was working there and basically running it already, and he just took it over as the owner. But normally, you're not even gonna be able to sell it, and if you are, it's going to be for very little, if any kind of EBITDA. But if you had 3 to 5 regionally located, you had good management teams in place, and it was being powered by a bigger entity with a nice brand behind it, you're going to get a much higher multiple. Even if you had 3 to 5 local and owned privately, you might sell it if you do good, you would sell it for a 3 multiple of EBITDA, which would just say 3 multiple of profits to keep it simple. But if you're in a franchise structure, you're typically going to see much higher, in some cases up to 8,
Right.
So 5 to 8 as a multiple, as opposed to, maybe 3 if you're lucky, really lucky.
Probably a lot easier to sell, right? Because they know they're buying the brand and the systems.
100%. They don't want to buy some entrepreneur's harebrained ideas and headaches, right? They want to buy a systematic approach to something, and that's what franchises provide. So there's that. Okay, so 1, you're not going to be lonely, right? You're going to have a backing, you're going to have support would be the best way to put that. 2, you have a better future, right? There's scalability to it. So you can now scale to that 3 to 5 locations, right? And there's a strategy behind it. And so you have everything from where would you put it? Where's the ideal real estate, right? How am I going to build these out? Like all those questions are answered. What are the brand specs? I don't know. It's just basically a massive shortcut in a box that allows you to then just be an entrepreneur.
Yeah, we talked about it hasn't dropped yet, but finding where the who, not how you're going to do it, where the actual.
Yeah. So this will be after the last podcast we just shot, which was earlier this week, which was who, not how, and really that's I think the most important question that any entrepreneur can ask. Maybe one of the hardest things to learn, which is who, not how. And who means, like, if I need something done, or I need bandwidth, or I need help, the question shouldn't be how am I going to build this on my own. So in this particular instance, not how am I going to create my own gym from scratch.
Right.
It should be who has a concept and something already built that gives me a shortcut and support that I can grab and go make money with.
Right.
When I was speaking to one of the individuals who has a mom and pop, it's just a one-off operator, right? And we were talking about it and had some really good questions, smart guy. And I was telling him about one of our prospective franchisees that lives in Kauai. He's like in his mid-50s. He's a really sharp guy. He's even been in the fitness space in the past. But right now he owns like 70 Jamba Juices and, a bunch of PF Changs. And I mean, he's a guy who believes in franchising. And I can remember talking to him. He's a really smart guy, very humble, And he said, look, man, I'm not the most creative guy in the world, but here's what I know. I can take somebody else's concept that I like and go make them a lot of money with it. And that's his end game. And he knows he can sell it for a much higher multiple. So that's typically the conversation that investors have, right?
Right.
And I think that's probably a surprise to a lot of like small brick and mortar owners. Another example would be a trainer that reached out that I know through our Perform Better ties, from the presentations. And he said, yeah, I have a client that wants to invest in me and open, a couple locations in Florida. But he told me he doesn't want me to run them. He wants me to go find a franchise concept. So imagine this. And the same thing, I just talked to a father son recently.
Right.
And the son's like, hey, Dad, I want to do something. And the dad wants to diversify, his investment portfolio. And he's like, okay, well, go find a franchise then. And it's funny because you could read into that, like, well, I don't believe in you, or like the client doesn't believe in the trainer. But savvy investors understand that it's just your chances of success are fivefold higher.
Right.
You know, if you look at who makes it to 5 years, franchises are exponentially more successful for staying power because of the support, and they pick the right real estate, and you run, you do everything correctly. And so investors understand that. So they don't want to invest in some crazy trainer's ideas, right? They're like, well, let's, okay, I'll invest in you as a person, but go find us a franchise we can buy, right? Or the guy that says, hey, again, he's smart, really smart, but he's smart enough. He's so smart that he knows who is a better question than how. Give me 70 concepts of this juice bar thing because I like it and I can make money with it.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, most people and a lot of people you probably talk to, they got into the gym business or started their own place just because they like training and stuff like that. They never think about the end game. So the fact that we are thinking about it and we do have a solution for them and we are that who, because, eventually you're going to get there and be like, I can't do this, every day for the rest of my life.
Well, right. And so when people hear that, like, hey, someone wants to buy a franchise, it might sound like, oh, why would you do that? Why wouldn't you just do it on your own? And that's just that entrepreneurial fallacy, right? Mm-hmm. The smart play, the winner's question is who, not how. So the winner says, I can see the writing on the wall. They see all the things we just talked about. And they say, who out there has a concept that I can grab, scale, and build a future for myself, and maybe have an exit at some point that's worth something where I can take care of my family and my kids for a long period of time. So that's the smart play, really. That's the smart question to ask. So it's been encouraging to talk to some of these small independent owners and to understand that they get it, right? That they know that this is a better path for them than to just go out there and blaze that trail on their own. And a lot of that might have to do with ego as well. I mean, how many folks have we run into that are like they just dig in and they just want to do it their way? And the problem with that is that they're losing out on an opportunity for what? For ego, right? Like I need to do this on my own.
It's my stuff.
Right.
I made it.
I did this. I invented this lunge, by God. I came up with that. I'm like, I'm pretty sure you didn't invent the lunge, but okay. Meanwhile, somebody else is like, hey, yeah, lunges are lunges. That's cool. Let me grab this alloy concept and go make a ton of money with it and help more people, by the way, and all the altruistic reasons why you get into this business in the first place.
Cool. Well, that's the why, right? You got anything else on the why?
No, I think that's it. I mean, it explains it. It's like if you want to scale and you want to make more money and help more people, and not be lonely in the process and get some support. That's the why.
Well, how do we do it?
Well, the hows are a bit trickier than the whys, and here's why. So we'll start with sort of the criteria, just if anybody's listening who's interested. First of all, you have to financially qualify. And there's two metrics that we're going to measure for financial qualification. One, it's going to be net worth, and that's just totally, what you're worth. That would be your, filling out financial statements. And that's everything from retirement accounts, equity in your homes, cars, whatever it is that you have, right? Whatever kind of solid equity you've got. So that's your net worth. And then there's liquid, and liquid's like some cash that you could get a hold of immediately, wherever that may be, right? And so there is financial criteria. So if you're in a brick and mortar gym and you're just not doing well at all and you're up against it financially, it's going to be tough for you to get into a franchise situation, right? It really is. Just because you're going to have to financially qualify. And let's face it, it's and we do that to protect the person that's looking, as well as protect ourselves and our brand. Yeah. Because it takes money to grow and it takes money to change, and unfortunately that's the way the world works, or I should say fortunately. But so first of all, financial qualifications. We won't go through the details here because we have two models. We have a 1,500 square foot model, the Stronger 1 model. Then we have the Stronger 2 model, which is a 3,000 square foot model. Right. Obviously, the financial thresholds for each are different. But yeah, you have to financially qualify first and foremost.
Okay, cool. What about after you financially qualify? What's next? Is it real estate, right location? What we got?
Yeah, 100%. So first of all, are you the right person? You financially qualify, you fit the brand, you get it. We think you're going to be a good partner. Great. Now, a lot of folks are going to say, I'm into this lease already, right? I'm Matt's gym. Got this 3 more years on my lease, and the first question is, well, what does the space look like, right? And so the great thing about franchising is that it is a very systematic, in-the-box approach to rolling out and building out a franchise, right? Everything, construction, flooring, logos. I mean, it just takes care of all of that. Right. But if you're in your own facility already, right, and you're running your own place, you're going to have to retrofit a lot of what you have to fit whatever brand you're looking at. So, and more importantly is the location itself. So we have like a 7-layered criteria to make sure that the customer avatar that Alloy is chasing is, rich, a target rich environment, if you will, right? In the area where we're going to put these gyms. So typically the process would work where someone would say, I'm interested in Austin, Texas. And we're like, great. And then we have our real estate process and we run that. And we're like, here are 7, viable locations in your area that would work. Right. And it's everything layers from, it's more than just age and average income. It's also where do these customers shop, traffic patterns, all of these other things.
Which again, that's another reason to look for franchising, because we do all that for you.
Well, yeah, it's like, okay, here's 6 spots, and they're all picked based on criteria that we have built and this customer avatar and this archetype, right? These movers and shakers, and where else do they shop and hang out, and what are the other corner stores in the center? Those are all things that independent operators don't think about. They have local knowledge. They live in the town. They're like, well, this place is cheap. I'm going to put it behind this shopping center back here, right? Yeah. We're not going to let you do that because your chances of success are so much lower if you do, right? So if you are, in fact, an existing facility, first, you financially qualify. Second, is your current real estate, does it fit the model, right? Is it going to fit the Alloy model? Some cases, yes. Some cases, it's not, right? And if it's not, then you would have to weigh figuring out a way to move, right, to get out of that particular location and go and put it in a more viable location.
So, I mean, is there like, say a certain number of people that you need to hit that threshold to be around? Like 50 people that qualify is probably not good?
Yeah, so we'll just use just a basic example of how these processes work. So we use sort of a red light, yellow light, green light approach, right? So I'll give you an example. So for the smaller model, we only need maybe 120, right, to be doing really well. Like we're in the 60s for break even in this model, right?
That's total number of clients, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. Not thousands of dollars, but you could do that too if you're really smart. But at the same time, that's total number of clients. So then we know like saturation of population, with this avatar, right, that has to be in that area. So if you need 120 consistently to have a very, very healthy business, then we know that anything less than 1,000, as an example, is a red light, period. So if in the radius, right, and we use drive time and population and all these other, so we'll create a radius, even natural barriers like highways, rivers, mountain ranges, things like that factor into it. And it's pretty cool. Well, if you factor all that in, if you're less than 1,000 people and you need 120 to have a good, healthy model, then it's a hard no. You're getting a red light, right? If you go maybe starting around 1,500 up over 2,000-ish, you're probably moving into the yellow light area. Then you get up over 2,500, 3,000 people, you're in the green light area. And I think when you hear that, it makes complete common sense because, you need a certain population density that has a certain income level that's in a certain age bracket that also has these other products and services that they shop for to be in that area to be successful. And the reason that we do that is so that we're giving ourselves and the franchisee the best possible opportunity for success.
Man, you got to have enough fish in the pond, man.
Right. And the challenge that we may have is if you have someone that is in an existing facility and they have this local knowledge and there may be zero competition. And so they're like, oh, it'll work in my town. Like it's going great. I'm like, it probably won't, honestly. And it might. Here's the thing. Let me rephrase that. It might work, but your chances of success are exponentially lower. Yeah. So we wouldn't take the risk on our brand and put you also then in a situation to be in an area that wasn't fruitful. That's not going to make sense for you.
Right.
So first it's going to be, how much money do you have? Can you qualify? Because we want you to have staying power. We want you to be successful. Second, are you in the right location currently? And if not, are you willing to move to a location that makes sense for this brand?
Yep.
And we're doing that for everyone's best interest for success.
Absolutely. Mutual. We all want to win here.
Yeah. Well, again, based on the way the franchise is set up, right? If you don't win, we don't win. And that's the way I like it. That's the way it should be.
Cool. Well, after you get that set up, what's next? Is it getting the actual facility transitioned out?
Yep. So let's say that you're financially qualified. Turns out your real estate's in a great spot. Then it's about retooling the facility. And so we have brand specs and a design manual that are pretty set in stone based on this model. And a lot of it's just based on aesthetics but a lot of it's also based on like functionality, like what's the flow going to look like, right? So it's like number of restroom changing rooms. Do you need an office, right? What else goes in there? What's my flooring look like? What kind of racking system do I need? Exactly how much equipment do I need?
Right.
And in some cases, some of the owners might say, well, yeah, I've got a rack already. But if you looked at it, it might not be on spec, right? And as you can imagine, let's think of other boutique fitness brands that have been successful historically, which would be like an Orange Theory. It's not like you would go to one Orange Theory and they would have different treadmills than another one, or different colors. Like, well, my space looks like this, right? We have orange walls, we have yellow walls, or we've got, you can't do it. And that helps you. If you want to be involved with a brand, you want them to hold the brand standards for every other owner and operator to a certain level, because that, again, it's as the water rises, the ships rise. So the whole brand is worth more. And then by default, your particular locations are worth more. So you don't want to have those wild variations, right? That's a huge mistake. So yeah, it just depends on the setup of your facility, what you have, but you should plan on, if in fact you financially qualify and you're in the right spot, you're going to have to spend some money on retooling. But overall, I would say if you have an existing membership already, right? Because if you financially qualify, I'm under the assumption that you're probably doing okay, right? You're doing well enough to financially qualify. You have a chunk of clients already. So you're able to then make this transition. And the real goal would be, if you're especially in a one-stop shop, would be to transition, get into this model, probably be more efficient, be making even more profit than you are now, right? Get all this business advice and coaching and help that you need, and then step out of the business so you're not in it every single day if you choose. And then you can go and open other locations. Using that same process and same criteria. It just becomes easier to duplicate. By the way, it's much easier to get money. So if you're going to an SBA, as an example, Small Business Association, as a lending arm, so you want to get an SBA loan. Well, we're an SBA approved franchise, right? So we've already been approved by the SBA. So it's going to make it easier for you to get a loan to build an Alloy franchise than it is to get a loan to build Matt's Gym, as an example, right? So there's just so many other advantages that I could probably think of that would take us forever to go through. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Just wanted to address it because we've had a lot of questions about it. And I wanted people, before they reached out, just to understand what's involved, what the upsides are, and then what you have to look at if how would I get one? Well, that basically answers it in a high level nutshell.
Cool. All right. Well, everybody call Rick and get this set up. Change your gyms out. Let's go.
Really. No, it's been great. I hope to do more of this because I really, the people that I'm talking to, I like them. They're good owners. They're good operators. And to see them, I'd like some of them in the brand, right? I think they would represent me well. And I also see that ultimately they would do really well. So I want to see that, that not struggling, but that one gym operator who's, feels like they got the weight of the world on their shoulders, be able to have 3 to 5 locations, buy some entrepreneurial freedom in their life, be able to hang out with their families and build some wealth for their kids' college funds or whatever that is in the future. And that's really what we're talking about doing. So I'm excited.
Yeah, great stuff, man. Thank you.
All right, buddy. Thanks.